Good morning. I want to say hi to everybody out there and to my friend Eagles who invited me to speak. And I want to extend my regrets that I am not able to be there today. But I am happy to greet you via video, and I do hope that you'll find that this is helpful to you in trying to get a grasp of what may be coming in the future. As we go through this, because I'm not there, if you would at some point like to contact me regarding what I have to say, if any questions you may have or any ideas, you can do so by writing me at richard@globaltoyexperts.com. That's richard@globaltoyexperts.com. I'm sure they have it written down there for you somewhere, but I'd be happy to take your emails. We're going to talk about the future today, and I'd like to start with a quote from the famous business philosopher Peter Drucker, Drucker, who a brilliant man, and he had this to say about predicting the future. He said, trying to predict the future is like trying to drive down a country road at night with no lights while looking out the back window. Let me repeat that. Trying to predict the future is like trying to drive down a country road at night with no lights while looking out the back window. And I think there's some truth to that. It is not easy to do, but I think it's important to do it because even if we're wrong, I think it's better to be wrong than surprised. So we do have to take some risk in predicting the future, and of course, be realistic in realizing that nothing turns out exactly as we would predict, but maybe we'll come close. So let's just talk a little bit about how I go about looking at what's coming. And the first thing I'd like to look at is I look where nobody else is looking. I look at things that have nothing to do with toys. It has to do with events in the world, how we live our lives, cultural changes, technology changes, not in toys, but technology changes in our cars, our homes, the world. I like to look at, particularly look at technology in terms of whatever is cutting edge today. We know from history is typically a toy at 3-4 years. We saw that with mobile phones. Children have their own now in many countries. We see it with drones, which are many people enjoy backyard flying their drones. So we really need to pay attention to what's going on with technology, with demographics, who's having population growth, who's having babies. In the United States, we've had a real surge in the number of parents who are in their 40s and 50s having babies. And where you might think it's not important, it is, because they tend to be more wealthy than younger people, so they can buy better toys and more toys. So I think that it's important to take a look at these things and think, well, how's that going to affect the business of play? How's it going to affect the toy business? So I'm going to give you just a few predictions today I'm making. And the first one is, believe it or not, about self-driving cars. Now you might think, well, what does self-driving cars have to do with play? Well, I think a lot. And before I get into that, let me just talk to you a minute about where we are with self-driving cars. I just read today that Tesla, which is a leader in making these things, is now valued at more than the Ford Motor Company. That's as of today, and they expect it to pass General Motors. So we have, who's investing in this? Well, think about it. Mercedes-Benz, Google, Intel, Audi, General Motors, Toyota, Ford Motor Company, and how close are we? Well, they're certainly testing them right now, and Volkswagen predicts that they'll have a commercial product on the road by 2019. Toyota and Ford are saying 2020. So it's not science fiction. We're going to have self-driving cars, and I think they're going to have a real impact, a societal impact. Because I want you to think about this just for a second. Right now, when you're in a car, typically father or mother is driving. They're looking straight ahead, and the children are in the back seat. And what do they see? They see the back of the back seat, and they see the back of their parents' heads. So there is not that kind of eye-focused, person-to-person as an interaction that goes on in the car. And so each individual kind of entertains themselves. In a self-driving car, everybody faces in. And so everybody is looking at each other. And so that space between them becomes a communal space. And what a great space in which to play. And so I am predicting that the car is going to become an extension of the home. It's going to become an extension. We call it a family room, a playroom. You may call it a den, a living room, whatever. It's an extension of that. So what's that going to mean? Well, it's going to mean that toys and games that lend themselves to playing inside a car are going to become more valuable. They're going to sell more. Now, you can't play baseball, you know. You can't play football, you can't, or rugby, but you can certainly play board games, and you can do crafts, and you can do other things. And so I'm going to talk in just a second about who I think will be some of the winners. So when we get into this, then, that toys and games that are somehow modular, that can move from the home to the car and then back to the home or someplace else, are really going to be, I think, part of how we design product. How portability, but different kind of portability. Portability so that you can stop a game in the house and without spilling anything, easily move it to the car. And so it's going to call for some modular kind of creativity, and some interesting design work and how we design around that. It's also going to be, I think, smart toy companies are going to go to car companies and they're going to say, let us help you design the interior of the car so that it lends itself to play. And while we're at it, why don't you let me put my brand on it? How about like Mattel, the Patel play environment in a Tesla car, or whatever. So I think that we're going to see this kind of an interaction between toy companies and automobile producers. So who's the winners? Well, certainly I think tabletop games, board games, Trivial Pursuit, Scrabble, Monopoly, checkers, chess, Go, anything like that I think is really going to work. I think we're going to see on the digital side, instead of each person having their own little cell phone, mobile device, I think you're going to see oversized digital tables or tablets that a whole family sits around. And so just like you sit around a game board at home, you'll be able to sit around a tablet. And it's going to be big enough that you can all interact. So we're going to have a lot more family interaction and socialization. I think we're going to see crafts as a very popular enterprise to do in the car. Card games, of course, are going to be good. I think educational toys are going to do really well. I mean, if you're on the road, why not use flashcards, workbooks, teach. So I think we're going to see STEM and STEAM-based toys are going to do very well. And then maybe even a little bit of tossing a ball around. I think you can toss a Nerf ball at your father or mother, because they're not going to be driving the car. So if it hits them and surprises them, nothing bad's going to happen. So that's what I'm thinking. I would really expect to see us to have to adjust to that kind of a play environment. It's going to be positive and a real plus for the play industry. Another thing I want to talk to you about is speed to market. in the United States, there used to be a term called the New York Minute. And it meant that a minute in New York was faster than a minute in Cleveland, Ohio, or even Los Angeles, California, because we move so fast here. So people would say, that's faster than a New York minute. So I think the New York minute has become globalized. I bet you your life's a lot faster than it used to be. And I'm sure there's everything's much sped up. So as a result, we have seen a real demand for speed. And my prediction is that speed to market is going to challenge price as a major driver of business. And the speed to market will challenge price as a major driver of business. And let me explain that a little bit. Let's just start with food delivery. Now you may wonder, what does food delivery have to do with it? But if you are used to getting something faster, then you are going to expect everybody to get you what you want faster. So, you can remember a time before McDonald's Corporation when you went to a restaurant and it took time to get what you wanted to eat. Well, now you go to McDonald's, and if you're waiting in line for more than a few minutes, you start looking around the person in front of you, and don't they have any more people working here? You get really upset about it because you expect speed. Here in New York City, Uber is starting to offer food delivery. They promise faster, up to 10 minutes. I don't know how that's possible. I don't want to be on the road if they're trying to get me food in 10 minutes. There's a place called Jimmy John's that claims they can get you your food in 15 minutes. They call it freaky fast. So it's just speed. And then think about e-commerce providers like Amazon. It used to be 24-hour delivery was a big deal. Now they're talking about getting you your stuff in 30 minutes using drones or other means. So as this demand for speed moves throughout a society, you begin to want to speed it up everything. So, give you an example in history. Think about ocean liners before airplanes. If I wanted to go from San Francisco to China before the invention of air traffic, I would have taken me a couple months maybe. Today, I can do it 12 hours. Now, I would imagine if you go to the airport and you're expecting your trip to be 12 hours and they tell you there's a 3-hour delay, you're really upset. You don't think about the fact that it used to take 2 months. You want to be there now. So I think it's that same kind of time adjustment. And so what is this going to mean for us? I think it's going to mean that just as the consumer demands to get their products from the retailer faster and faster, I think the retailer is going to demand the manufacturer to get products to them faster and faster. And what's that going to mean? It's going to mean that we are all going to have to work together. Retailers, manufacturers, and the customer, those who provide transportation, are going to figure out logistically and operationally, how do we really get products in a consumer's hands much, much, much faster than we used to? I think that we're going to see possibly maybe Chinese company manufacturers actually putting forward assembly centers in the United States as an example, so that if somebody wants toys in the United States, the parts have already been shipped, but the assembly is done in the States, and the product gets there much, much, much quicker. And so I think if this is not done, that you're going to see manufacturing moving back to closer to the consumer, just because speed is going to be so important. So I would say to you that just expect that your customers are going to begin demanding that you get product to them faster. And you need to start thinking about how's that going to happen. And that's why I say I believe that speed to market is going to challenge price as a major driver of business. Okay, let's talk next about technology. Some people might believe that, can't have. I mean, we've had so much change over the last 100 years. That change is going to continue, but probably at the same pace. Well, there's a gentleman named Ray Kurzweil, and I'm going to spell that last name. It's Kurzweil. It's Kurzweil. He's a very interesting thinker, and he created the law of accelerating returns, and it's the law of accelerating returns, in which he stated, an analysis of the history of technology shows that technological change is exponential. So we won't experience 100 years of progress in the 21st century. It will be more like 20,000 years of progress in the 21st century. That's a cool sentence. I'm going to repeat that again. We won't experience 100 years of progress in the 21st century. It will be more like 20,000 years of progress. And he's got a great way of describing why he believes this. And he uses the myth of the emperor and the inventor of the game of chess. And you may have heard this story, but it's a delightful story. It's that the emperor was so impressed with chess, the game of chess, that he told the inventor he could have anything he wanted. And the inventor said, well, I'll tell you what I want. I want you to take my chessboard, and on the first square, I want you to put 1 grain of rice. On the second square, I want you to put 2 grains of rice. 4 on the third square, 8, 16, 32. In other words, exponential growth. And the emperor said, great, this guy is nothing. Let's do it. So he started doing that. And by the end of the first half of the chessboard, the inventor had accumulated 4 billion, that's B, 4 billion grains of rice. Emperor's no problem, But at that point, remember, it's only halfway through the chessboard. And so here's the second half of the chessboard where it gets interesting. As they go forward, by the time they get to the last square, the inventor has now accumulated 18 million trillion grains of rice. 18 million trillion grains of rice, okay? And Kurzweil's saying, we are in the halfway point of the chessboard, and the growth we're going to be seeing in the 21st century is going to be like what happened on the second half of that chessboard. So you should expect incredible growth to be coming over the next decades. And technology's here. It's going to become more prominent. Don't get me wrong. Basic toys will always be needed. We're always going to need blocks and construction toys and dolls and things we can hold and touch and manipulate. But technology is going to become more and more important, and it's going to be more and more important in how we play. And I'm going to close with this statement from Mr. Kurzweil, and he said this: when you talk to a human in the year 2035, you'll be talking to someone that is a combination of biological and non-biological intelligence. Part machine, part human. And I ask you, how are you going to make a toy for that kid? Take care.